appreciate it. My name is Jenelle Riley. I'm the Associate Features Editor at Variety, and I'm so thrilled to welcome you to this SAG Foundation conversation with one of the best actors working today. This is someone who, before the age of 30, had already established himself as one of the best actors, not just of his generation, but any generation, with films as varied as Donnie Darko, The Good Girl, and Brokeback Mountain. This year, it's saying a lot to say I think he's really topped himself as his performance as Detective Loki in Prisoners, which is at the height of a very impressive career. So please join me in welcoming Jake Gyllenhaal.
Hi again.
Thank you. Hi.
All right. Actually, it's very interesting because if we actually were doing a second take, I wouldn't have cut. I would have continued in the weirdness of that moment, and I think that moments like that are essential. You know, they always open up into something interesting when it's uncomfortable for everybody. It's like that. It's like that moment when, and as an actor, you stop yourself and you're in the middle of a take. And I used to do that early on and be like, "Oh no, let me start again. Let me go back." And I don't do that anymore. Like in moments where I feel like I've flubbed a line or something strange is happening that the universe is giving to you, I think of it as a gift, you know? And it has always opened me up into someplace more interesting. So here we are all now much more intimate together as a result of that situation, and it feels so much better.
I'm so glad you feel that way because we forgot to load film into the camera. So we're just gonna, one more time.
Whatever.
Is that an attitude you always had, or do you think doing theater had something to do with that?
I think it is an attitude I always had. I think that doing theater did nothing but sort of allow me to trust those instincts and move towards them even more. But as a human being, it's always, I think, those little moments are always the moments that make you feel like you're moving away from convention or what you thought a scene was supposed to be or what you think a situation is supposed to be, are always what people love. I mean, it's what I love as an actor when something's totally in the moment, you know, where there's the unknown everywhere. So, I mean, yes, I think there's the unknown everywhere when you're on the stage, but there's great consistency there that you don't have on a movie set. You know you are going to get to the theater at 6 or 7 or whenever you do it. And if you do Sleep No More, it's probably 11 p.m. or whatever. But different. I mean, usually it's very consistent. And I, you know, on a movie set, it's like, oh, well, the big scene's coming up in 5 minutes because we have the light and you have to do it. Oh, it wasn't scheduled. Well, sorry, we got to go, you know. But yeah, it does. I think that is a result of theater and that attitude.
This is a SAG audience. We have all SAG actors here.
Hello, everybody.
And I'm curious, how did you get your SAG card?
I was 11 years old. I remember very clearly I was on the set for City Slickers. And I had I was intensely focused on my work. And, I remember my mother coming up and saying, you know, after this number of hours, you know, we have to pay these dues and you're going to get this thing called a SAG card. And I didn't have any idea, you know, what it really meant at that time. I have since realized how much it means. But yeah, from around 11 or 12 years old until now at 32, I've had my SAG card. So that was the first experience.
Your father is a very well-respected director. Your mother's a screenwriter. Was it a foregone conclusion you'd be an actor or work in the industry, or did you sort of rebel against it?
Yes, it was a foregone conclusion. I mean, someone's going to tell you get to do amazing, strange things and get pretty well paid for it, and very well paid at many times. I would say I'm in. I mean, that's basically. No, I mean, there was a lot of acting going on at the dinner table. I have a very intense sister, and she's an incredible actress, and she was acting before I was, and I remember watching her on stage when I was a kid, and you know, maybe it was the fact that your older sister is doing something and she's extraordinary at it, and you know, you feel it in your bones that you want to do it too because you look up to her. Maybe it's because it was around all the time and the conversations about the love of actors. My father in particular loves actors, and his work with us and his encouragement of that kind of performing and that part of ourselves. My father was an assistant for the visual artist Red Grooms. I don't know if you know but he would always, my dad would be making sculptures, and he would always be, you know, playing music, and my mother would be writing, but that's sort of less of a performance. She would always be like, shh, you know, I'm writing. My dad would encourage more of the performances, but that was always around. So people have asked me that question before, and I can never be quite sure. You know, it's kind of the moment before an earthquake. You never really know exactly what you were doing.
You started at such a young age. Were you just having fun at the time? At what point did you think this is something I want to do for the rest of my life? Or have you decided that? Yeah. Sorry. Stepped on your joke, sorry.
No, it's fine. No, it was really actually when
Was it really?
Yeah, it was not meant as a joke.
Which makes it funnier.
I mean, I think most of us, you know, we don't have the opportunity to start at 11 years old, you know? And I think a lot of as from my friends and my contemporaries, what they're doing in their work, they start at 30. I mean, a lot of work and serious work and the intention of why you do it and why you know, what you're doing starts at that age. I mean, some people are lucky enough to do it earlier or to know earlier. I didn't. I just had great luck at a very young age and wasn't quite sure, but knew that it was extraordinary and loved doing it. But I didn't really find out why until, I would say, last year somewhere.
Was it the movies that you were doing, or was it something internally?
It was both. I think I decided to approach my work in a different way. I felt like my life was growing even more important than my work, and then ironically, as I took my life more seriously, in a way, my work became even more serious to me. You know, I think what happened was a number of things in my life. You know, my parents got divorced at 30. I was 30, which is strange, you know, to have that happen. And there were so many changes going on in my life that I said I want to devote myself to that period of to my family, to my work. I moved to New York, and I think I just said, also the process of this movie End of Watch that I did, I just decided I wanted to get in. I wanted to see the people who do actual real work and spend time and experience the job that I would be playing. And I realized that the 6 months of preparation I did for that movie informed my life. And then the 22 days that we shot that movie in was a blip. I mean, strangely, it was less important than the 6 months that I spent preparing. And I sort of came to this conclusion that my work is a way of somewhere really learning about my own life and about the world around me. And my mother always told me that was what, you know, hopefully, ideally, if you're lucky enough, that's what your work should be. And I reached that point where I said, oh my God, I have this job where I can go into other people's worlds and really learn about them, and things that I had judgments about, things that I love deeply. Sometimes they flipped completely, you know. You have a judgment about what somebody does, then you start doing research and you fall in love with it. And you realize, whoa, I had no idea how much I would, you know, love playing a police officer and respect what they do, you know, and know that they're human beings there, you know. I mean, there's so many examples that I could give, but I think that happened about a year ago. A lot of it was like being in dangerous situations also in the preparation of that movie, and realizing, whoa, where are the lines here? Like, where does the reality of the moment begin and where does it end? You know, when I was with Michael Payne, we were preparing it on the streets for 3 months before we shot with police officers every night, from 6 p.m. till 6 a.m., encountering situations that they encounter with them. And I thought to myself, when I was looking over a dead body at one point, going like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? What is this? What do we, like, is this going to inform the work that I do? Like, and it does. I believe that every moment that you experience in preparation for something is in the work that you do. And that is what I came to. So, you know, I believe the next movie I'm doing, this moment will inform that. And as an audience, you will see that somewhere, not necessarily consciously, but you will feel it underneath. And that excites me. Sorry, that was a very long-winded answer.
It didn't seem like it. I know that you took your role in End of Watch very seriously. Is it true you let them tase you?
Yes.
What was the thought process behind that?
I like the phrasing of that. You let them tase you.
Well,
I guess it's true.
Yeah.
No.
You knew it was coming, right?
No. Yeah, no. Yes. It was an acting exercise. What was
the thinking behind that? You just wanted the experience?
Come on, like you're in a safe environment with a bunch of cops and they're like, look, you're going to be safe, we're going to tase you, you want to know how it feels? I'm like, yeah, I'd like to know. So if I'm ever in a situation where they're like, put your hands up, we're going to tase you, I'm like, no worries. Or I'm like, yeah, screw it. I'm gonna, I know what it feels like. It's fine. I'm gonna run. I think that I was in this moment where I thought, again, those experiences within a level of safety, really do inform. If I knew, look, I trained, I did fight training, MMA training for that. David Ayer, the director, put us through, again, like 5 months of fight training for that. I don't fight in one scene in the movie. Michael fights. But the feeling of knowing that I could go into a scene and that I would be able to handle myself was in every scene, And I think that every police officer, when they go through the academy, has to go through that. And if they have to go through it, like how bad could it be for me to go through it? The funniest part was watching these like tough guys, like particularly David Ayer, when everybody ended up doing it. It was all the actors together after we all just said, fine, we're gonna all get tased, which was just like, we all put down our SAG cards and we all got tased. And I remember David really screaming like a little child, which was really important to know about your director before you go into the trenches, that, when pushed, they, will scream like a little girl. But no matter how tough they are. But yeah, it was important for me. It's just to feel those feelings, to feel what it is, to have that sensory perception of it. And we carry a taser in the cop car. I wanted to know what it felt like.
Is it wrong? I kind of wish that was on the DVD extras. All of you getting tased.
I know, me too, actually. I remember it happening. They hold you by your arms and they put the nodes on us, and then they were like, okay, we're gonna do it for this many seconds. I think it was like 6 seconds or something. I was like, okay, 6 seconds. And they're like, if you want to stop, you just say stop. And I remember like them holding me and me going like, ow, 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 ow. I meant stop. I meant stop. And I just kept doing ow. And it was like I was like, how long was that? Like 8 seconds? They were like 1.5 seconds.
Every performance and every life experience, I think, informs the next one. I'm curious, do you think you could have done Prisoners or given such an exemplary performance if it hadn't been for your experience on End of Watch?
No.
Yeah.
And more so than the preparation, I realized the reason why I did Prisoners, primarily the very first reason, was my relationship with the director. We had made a movie before. It was our second movie in a row. I made a small movie with him in Canada called An Enemy. We had and have an incredible relationship. And I started to realize that it's that relationship, when you're working with somebody who's sensitive and who understands you and who you understand, who's the leader of something, that makes everything. And that was why I initially really wanted to do Prisoners. And I knew that that would lead into an interesting performance somewhere, because he wanted who I was. He wanted my ideas. He believed in them. And I in his. And so, I don't know. I mean, I realized I learned in End of Watch about relationships and about how important those types of friendships and intimacies are. It's what that movie is about. And I think that that's what I realized with Denis Villeneuve, the director of Prisoners, was you need to move towards the people who believe in you. More than anything, more than any role, more than any, I think that's what it's about, is working with the people in whatever context, large, small, whatever that even means, it will always be big when the relationship is deep. It will always fulfill that time, you know? I mean, we made End of Watch on $6.5 million. We shot it, every scene in the police car that we have in a day and a half, and that's like one half of the movie. But the relationships were deep, and so I think that made, you know, time sort of expand. You know?
So you were already working with Denis on Enemy when he brought the Prisoner script to you?
Yes, we're in the middle of shooting an Enemy.
And what was it that attracted you to the character of Detective Loki? He has actually said that he and the writer, Aaron Guzikowski, sort of worked with you because they wanted to really, the character wasn't as well developed until you came on board. Is that common for you to work with the writer and director?
Yes and no. I think it just depends on the role. I think there were a lot of question marks to Loki, and it really, I have to give credit to not only Denis and to the writer, but also to the producers, who really championed the movie through the whole process, and they knew early on that someone needed to fill this role, and how they filled it was important, and they always asked the questions. But I think what we got to, all of us got to, was the question was who this guy was, instead of answering the questions, and that's where we kind of broke open the whole thing. But yeah, I wanted to play him because, you know, sometimes when there are those blank spaces somewhere, your mind is allowed to kind of fill them up. And I read the script first, and I thought, you know, people said, oh, I don't know the part, you know, I don't know what you do with it, I'm not so sure. And as I read it, Denise said to me, tell me what you feel, you know, tell me what you feel. And I want to hear what you think, and I want you to know that we'll be able to work on this, and I want you to know. I mean, we were already working on this movie that was quite an experiment, which I'm also incredibly proud of.
And is it an Enemy?
Enemy, yeah, Enemy.
Okay, I saw it in Toronto. It's an extraordinary movie. I don't know if you want to tell people a little bit about what it's about, but you play two roles.
I don't know what it's about. I have no idea what it's about. But the process was amazing. And again, that's, I think part of it too as actors is like, that's not our job. Like, our job is to go and show up and put everything out there for someone else to put together. Like, and I learned that too a year ago, which was I have no control over the result of what happens. I have control over the amount of commitment that I put into the role and the amount of variation that I can give to the director and to the editor and to the producers of the movie to make the best possible movie that they can make. And I will do anything. I will go to the ends of the earth at this point to make sure that they have everything they need to make an extraordinary movie. And if I leave this set with no regrets, which I feel like I have on this last movie I did, I'm happy. That's a piece of advice I got from Chris Cooper when we were making this movie, October Sky. I said, Chris, can you give me one piece of advice, if there's any? And I was 16 years old, you know, and he said, yes, don't have any regrets. And I didn't really know what that meant until, again, a year ago. So, you know, I think that is, we have to just give and give and give as much as we can, and then let it go. Like it can be exhilarating in the case of something like Prisoners, where you have a director who really gets you and saw what you were doing and calibrated in the right way. And it can also be, which is I'm not going to give an example for, sometimes disappointing. And I think that is the beautiful part of it, you know. And in each take, it's the same way. Like take to take, there's a take where you're like, you know, it's just, it sucks. And then there's a take where you feel alive. You walk off your high the rest of the day from the interaction that you've had with somebody or something or anything, and it makes it all worth it. Like, it really, really does. I mean, I'm not one for, you know, cliches. I respond. I have a problem sometimes with cliches, but I think it's just because I actually really do love them. But I really believe that. I really believe that we just got to give and put everything out there and walk away feeling that way.
Something I love about both Prisoners, the movie, but specifically your character, is that it doesn't necessarily give us answers. Yeah. Never easy answers, and some, like, I don't know why he has tattoos, I don't know why he, you know, dresses with his collar buttoned all the way up. Yeah. But I imagine as a character that you created a backstory, you had those answers.
Yes.
Yes. So why all the tattoos?
Exactly. I wanted to. What I love is sort of contradiction somewhere. That something allows something to sort of, I don't know, the abrasive aspect of a character, like particularly on the edge of a story. Like, I don't know if that's too abstract, but the idea that a character would come in and somebody who was so desperate for truth from other people was sort of hiding his own. And that I needed to give myself a history that I could hide from, and also for the audience that they didn't know also. And for this, we know detectives typically as people who are always asking questions. And I wanted to give him something that, the audience, while I was asking questions, were asking questions of him. Initially, I thought I would really like the audience to think that he may have done this, which was very important for me, because I thought in that introductory scene, it was sort of initially written with both intentions. It could be that he's somebody who's just a lonely guy, and he's devoted to his work. And to me, that wasn't as much of as interesting of a choice as, well, who is this guy? Like, all of a sudden we meet this guy, like in the story, like 20 pages in, it's like this guy in a Chinese restaurant, like, and I had worked with Roger Deakins before, the cinematographer, who's unbelievable, and Denis and I had worked before, and I sort of expressed that to them, and they do this first shot of that character when you meet him, and it's behind his back. And I had said to them, I just wanted him to be a mystery. And the initial meeting of that character is a mystery, before I even introduce him in my behavior. It's like you're just working in collaboration with people who get what you're doing. So I can't really say that. It was just, to me, I wanted him to be someone who was hiding from his own truth while demanding this truth from other people. It allowed for a great sort of guilt to play underneath this constant questioning of people, and really just being paranoid about everybody else. What does that say about yourself?
I have seen many great actors go toe-to-toe with Hugh Jackman and not quite stand up to his level. And you are so excellent in this movie.
You're too nice.
No, it's not just me. Yeah. First of all, I have to say that the real testament is when other actors, I don't know if you read what James Franco wrote, this lengthy blog about you, and then I did a Q&A with him 2 weeks ago, and he spent most of the time talking about you.
No.
And I'm dead serious. I don't know if anyone here was there, but I had to keep saying, let's get back to your movie. He just wanted to talk about Prisoners.
He's awesome.
But the real question was, what's it like to work with Hugh Jackman, who is, he has
Let's
said...
talk about James Franco, whatever.
Exactly. Spring Breakers? Yeah.
Let's talk about cornrows. You want to talk about a choice. I was this close to having Loki in cornrows. I would have too. I don't give a fuck. Yeah, Hugh. This is the thing about it. This movie would never have been made without Hugh Jackman saying yes to it, and he financed the movie essentially. It was his sort of star power, as you would say, that made them got the movie made. And it says a lot about him as a human being and as an artist that he would move to this direction when he has that type of power, as opposed to, other choices that he could have made. This is a very complicated film, while at the same time allowing for, a type of commercial success, which is a hard balance to play. And he committed fully. But as an actor within the scene, one thing I think about Hugh is that he'll always say thank you. And he says it in the scene. You're in the scene and you make a choice, and there's never a choice that he judges. It's something that I love, because I tend to have those judgments when I don't even mean to. And he just always says thank you. You can feel it from him in the scene. And so I would, give him things or say things to him or try things, and it was constantly that exchange. So it became this exchange of, underneath all of it, thank you. No, thank you, thank you. And then, and then we did that in the press for the movie, and everyone was like, oh, it's a bromance. There's a, and it's actually when two actors are not afraid to be vulnerable with each other. And what we realized in that is that it opened up these scenes where they at first were written as these two guys who were bumping heads. And what we realized was that they were actually, these moments between these two characters were the only moments where these two guys were allowed to express to each other. It was really interesting. And that came from Hugh. And I mean, man, like I really could go on about him. His base is from the theater, so I think that comes from that as well. And his sense of just being grateful for what he has and what he's been given. It just is great to work with someone like that. And that positivity leads way to the ability to open the doors into darker places. You know, people don't think that a lot. I was thinking about this the other day. I was doing, sorry, I tend to do this, but I was thinking about this. I was running. I've been, you know, I just playing this role, and I had this idea of him as like sort of coyote-esque, you know, and so I did everything I could to sort of run through the hills. That sounds so crazy. Run a lot, you know, and I was running, and I was just thinking about how, you know, I've thought about a lot of things when I was running, but I was just thinking about how, you know, actually I forgot. I just totally forgot.
You're a coyote.
Didn't get a lot of sleep. But just about how Hugh, you know, just, I don't know, that allowance as an actor, like the allowance that to just positivity, keeping your body in shape, keeping your instrument sharp and attuned, that there is a sort of typical thought that, this is a thought I was thinking about, there's a typical thought that if we destroy ourselves for something somewhere, or that we push ourselves to a limit where we hurt ourselves, or, you know, that you know, I think, I mean, even with like substances or things like that's going to make us better actors, or that's going to make us open us up to a place that's more, I don't know. And I don't believe that. And he happens to be someone that doesn't either. And I think that, you know, our physicality, our bodies, what we use, like, that is what we use. It is essential. We need to take care of those things, you know? And it leads into that sort of positive way of treating yourself, leads you into having more armor to go into the darker places. You know, you're safer there, like, because you have a couple more tools on your belt when you're fighting those crazy, you know, demons, you know? And I think that I believe in deeply, and I think that Hugh does, and in those scenes, we have that exchange. We have this, through his positivity, like, we go to some pretty dark places, and I love that, you know? I love that.
I was curious about that because it is such a dark, intense movie. Was it a hard shoot, or was there some levity on set?
It really depended. I mean, Denis Villeneuve is the sweetest man around. I mean, he's just loving and kind and loves actors so much, it's annoying. You know, I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it, I love you, you know.
The Canadians.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that attitude was very much ingrained in everything, so you felt safe. But yeah, it was tense. I mean, first of all, I was working with like some of the best actors around. I mean, I would like walk into the scene and be like, oh, it's Paul Dano today. My job sucks. And then I'd be like, oh, it's Melissa Leo, God. You know, it's just like every day. It was like Hugh Jackman, Maria Bello, like Viola Davis, Terrence Howard. Like there was no, I mean, every day, because of being the detective, I got to work with all of them, you know.
And they got to work with you.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, but I mean, they really, they had to listen to me talk, which was really probably annoying to them. No, but no, that made it positive. Like, to watch Melissa do that performance, wow. I don't know, like, yeah, it was very tense, yes, but I was excited by it all the time. It's to watch her go from the very beginning of the shoot, saying, I don't know, resisting the character so much. You know, she had said, I want to do it, she's doing it, she shows up on set for hair and makeup, but she would resist it because it's a horrible character. I mean, she's playing a horrible person. And then by the time she shot, because we shot her stuff towards the end, she came in love with this human being, which to me was this amazing arc of the explanation of an actor to be able to, and I think it gets back to the same question of why I decided this is what I want to do, because it can allow for great benevolence. Not to say there's not right and wrong, what she does is wrong, but to love something about that character you're playing, no matter how horrific the things they do are. to watch that stuff was so exciting to me. I am so excited by other actors and the work that they do, and so it was tense, but it was really fun at the same time.
At this point in your career, after 20 some years doing this, are you still learning? Are you still learning new things about acting?
Can you say that louder? No, I've learned everything there is.
Oh, good,
to know.
good.
I'm moving on into something else. My God. Yeah, I mean, I've learned some things. I've been, I was thinking about this the other day. I was thinking about working with Dustin Hoffman when I was 20 years old or 23 or something like that. And I remember Dustin coming up to me and him saying to me, you don't have to do so much. And I was like, what are you? He said, you carry everything inside you already. Like, you could probably just stand there and there's enough that people could watch, And that was expressed actually while we were doing this movie I just did in a way that I really like, which is just deliver the pizza. And that's one of the biggest things I learned, which is, we all carry with us, like, everything we do, like everything we've been through, good, bad, whatever, and if you can show up and just literally just deliver the pizza, like, you'd be all right. Because you're not good, like it's that Leonard Cohen poem about just speaking poetry. You don't have to be the butterfly flying around. Just say the word butterfly. Just say it, because people will take from that their own experience. Because if you don't give credit to the audience and how intelligent they are and how much they're going to be asking already, then you're done. I have just learned to have great respect for the audience, and I love them, and I will do anything for their minds. I know that sounds crazy, but I really will. I think that's what I've learned. And that came from Mr. Hoffman, and also this sort of idea that creating a situation we didn't know, sort of unexpected moments where things are just walking that line of, is that real or not real? Is a dangerous line to walk, but I think if you have enough craft somewhere that you can walk that line and be safe. Come off the field, pat yourself off, have a little bit of water, and go back in, and those are the things. And then other than that, I pretty much know nothing. I really do. And the business aspect of all of it too, I don't know. I know nothing. It is a very interesting business for all of us to be working in. And it is very hard to maintain sometimes that sense of self, what you want, what you believe in, and also, make a living, and I think it's possible to do both. And I think when I watch other actors work and they're able to, learn from their lives, have a life that they're proud of, and be able to have moments, because we only have a few moments. I don't think we have that many moments of great ahas, but if we're able to do that, then we're doing good.
I actually want to go back a little bit to the beginning of your career because, auditioning rejection at any age is tough, but you started so young. How did you handle the whole audition process and, the rejection that comes with that sometimes?
It's funny, it's like when people say, we're built physically to have kids younger, it's sort of like that feeling. It's like when you're younger, people are saying no, it's kind of like, a little bit. So I kind of feel blessed in that way. Getting hit so many times at a younger age doesn't hurt as much somewhere. So there's that. And I think that has allowed me to get, those types of rejections later on. It's been a little easier, and it happens all the time. I think that's a constant in what we do. That's why people think we're funny people. Um, it's I mean, what I know from, I don't know if this really, but I know from being on both sides of auditioning with people once I've gotten a role and then auditioning for a role, is one of the biggest things is I feel that when you're on the opposite side, where an actor walks in and you're about to read with them and you just want them to kill it. Like, that's the biggest thing. You want them to come in and be amazing. And so often on the opposite side, you walk in feeling so afraid that you're going to be judged, you know? And what are they going to think, and what do I need to hit, and all that stuff. And it's just become so clear to me that it has nothing to do with that. There's actually much more positive out there than we assume. Even when the rejection seems negative, you know, rejection is always said that it just doesn't feel that way. It's sort of like, I mean, look, I'll give you an example. There's an amazing actor who I just worked with on the last movie I did, and his name is Riz Ahmed, and the part that was written as an Asian role, and Riz came in, and that's not his, you know, race, and he came in and was extraordinary. The heart of the character came out for the director, and I was in the scene with him, and I was like, oh my God, you know, oh my God, and everything changed. Now, you know, that's possible anywhere. You know, that there are no boundaries. Because something is written a certain way doesn't mean it has to be that way. You know, and I mean, that's a testament to the fact that, like, you know, people say, no, don't, no, you can't, no, just do it. You know, Matthew McConaughey said the other day, he said he went in for an audition. I was part of a round table talking with him, and he said he went into an audition, and he felt like he didn't do that well, and he was driving home, and then he decided he was going to go back in, and, like, he didn't commit enough, so he grabbed the director and threw him against the wall while he was in the middle of another audition. Do you know what I mean? And he didn't get the role. But that kind of thing, you know, it's no regrets. It's sort of leaving it out on the table. But at least when that sort of, you know, whatever we call rejection happens, we've done it. Like, we've done it for ourselves, you know? Like, we've committed to that thing for ourselves, and then no matter what anybody says, you know, whether you can get the part too, and then you get the part, and then it comes out, and then people say, oh, you're bad in it. That's a rejection. Or, oh my God, you're so good in it. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It just matters that you go and you leave it out on the field. You know, I keep going back to the same thing. But it's true. Get out there. What are you doing here?
If you want, we could start over.
Yeah, let's do it again.
Is it true that actually when you were auditioning as a kid, your parents sometimes wouldn't let you take the role even if you got it?
Yeah.
What was the thinking behind that?
They're crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, we could have been making a lot of money at an early age. And no, I know. The thinking was that they wanted me to have an education, a formal education, and they wanted me to have a life that was not inside of a bubble, that they wanted me to interact with people my own age, not people 20 years older than me. They wanted me to have a life. And you know, at the time, it was very hard for me to understand because I loved it so much. I mean, and when someone offers you a role or you get close to it and you're not allowed to fight for it, you know, that's very hard. But my God, it's so amazing that they did that.
Yeah.
You know, to this day, I mean, I have an incredible education as a result of that. Not only at school and formally, but also in life. And I have incredible friends that I made that to this day I call up, you know, I mean, in those moments that I may not have had them if I hadn't been able to have that schooling in that time when I was making another. Maybe I'd have other friends, but I have those ones. And my mother always insisted on that, always. You know, I remember I did this movie with Dustin Hoffman that I mentioned earlier, this movie Moonlight Mile. And it premiered at the Toronto Film Festival. And I was 20-something, and I said, you know, Ma, I was talking to my friends, my four best friends in the world, Chris, David, and David. Well, I'm the fourth, but. And I said, Ma, you know, I want them to come to this. You know, I want them to come to the premiere of this. And she said, well, why don't you guys drive there together? You know, and I was like, and you know, the movie company was like, we need them to fly there. We have a day, and blah blah blah. And I was at an age where my mother was like, you spend time with your friends, and you get there however you need to get there, and you all go together, and you have that time together. And that was always the emphasis. It was always that, and we did it. I have the most incredible stories from that trip. Better than the Toronto Film Festival, actually. And that is what they tried to emphasize.
And didn't they make you take, I shouldn't say make you, but they encouraged you to take, you know, summer jobs, and you were a lifeguard, and I believe, were you a busboy?
Yes. A very, very good busboy. Probably one of the best around.
I believe it.
It's true. You want to bust some shit? Just trying to throw some game at me. I'll bust the shit out of any table. I will.
I have a very loud laugh, I have to.
I am I am incredibly organized. But yeah, they did. There were a lot of summer jobs, and I think a lot of that also had to do with the fact, for me, I was excited because there were a lot of really cute waitresses who worked at the restaurant, so I was not unhappy busing there. And I remember I was a lifeguard and a busboy for a couple summers in a row, and I worked, you know, pretty long shifts. No, but it was really, they always encouraged that too.
At the same time, I mean, they're trying to give you a normal life. At the same time, I believe Paul Newman is your godfather?
No.
That's not true.
No, I should clarify that.
Yeah, I heard he taught you to drive, but I don't believe anything I read on the internet.
So many rough things going on here. My father taught me how to drive.
Okay.
Let me clarify that, because that bums him out when people say
Really?
that. He's like, you know what, I spent hours with you in a car. Can you please tell the press that Paul Newman didn't tell you how to drive? I'm like, yes,
I will
Dad,
go on
no
Wikipedia
problem.
right now and fix that.
Thank you very
much.
My father really did teach me how to drive, and I have emulated his driving style. But I did happen to go to the racetrack with Mr. Newman, and he did teach me driving safety and how to properly drive in a number of situations. So, you know, he really, you know, in a way taught me how to stay safe on the road. And he was somebody that I knew when he was alive, and he was a real mentor of sorts. He's not my godfather. My godfather actually happens to be a man named Robert Elswit, who's a cinematographer.
Yes, okay.
That's
even more impressive, actually.
Yeah, I just finished the movie with him. The last movie I did was with him, which was pretty amazing, actually. Because I remember being on a set, visiting my dad's set when I was a little kid, and he was shooting with my dad. So if you want to make me cry, that's going to get me pretty close to it. But I also have only gotten 4 hours of sleep, so that might be fun. If we were on an airplane right now, I'd be crying, definitely. I cry on airplanes. That's like, so yeah, that he is, and that's the real one. So I just needed to set the record straight right there. But yeah, I'm pretty proud of his work too. He's an extraordinary cinematographer. Yes.
That's the real secret, is make friends with a cinematographer.
That's true, by the way. I really think that they are the story. They are part, like, they're it with the director and the cinematographer. When I knew Roger Deakins was shooting Prisoners, I was like, I'm good.
Yeah.
You know, when you're in a beautiful frame, your acting is so much better. I mean, you're such a good actor when you're in a really beautiful frame. It's just so true. It's just so sad and true. How much more important their job is. No, really, it's like, you know, that light,
Yeah.
and then, you know, Roger shot Jarhead.
Yes.
Jarhead. And it was all handheld the way he shot that. And Sam Mendes, who directed the movie, really wanted us to sort of be alive in the scene, and he wanted it to be captured. So there was a reality to it. And I always remember whenever I felt like what I was doing was false, Roger was somewhere else. But whenever I felt like I was somewhere that was honest and present, he was right there with me. Which, again, started to give me an idea of what felt real and what didn't. And he taught me. And then working with him on Prisoners, it was the same thing. But there was much more stillness, and he was much farther away with his camera. But I knew that his light was doing the same thing, because we would block the scene, and then I would walk through the scene, and I would think, in the moments that were not necessarily as honest, I would be in shadow. Or I would be in shadow, and it would be saying something else. And what I was trying to say as an actor wasn't as important as what he was trying to say with his light. And we were working together. And that is so true. I mean, it's so true. Cinematographer, man. I mean, yeah, make friends with them. Have them teach you how to drive. Like.
You mentioned October Sky earlier, which was your first starring role. You were still a teenager.
Yes.
But your parents allowed you to take that part?
They did, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was. It was my second semester of my senior year in high school. I had gotten in early acceptance into Columbia University, and I got a role, and my parents said, all right, you can go. You can do it. And so life was good.
At what point did you start working with an acting coach?
I mean, when I was really young, when I was 6, 7, 8, 9, something like that, I was at the Young Actors Studio over in Studio City. I remember doing acting classes over there. I then worked with a number of different people throughout the years, sort of different times, but not consistently. And I think it was probably, well, my brother-in-law was a huge influence on me. I don't know if you guys know Peter Sarsgaard, the actor. He's my brother-in-law. And his acting and his approach to acting was a huge influence on me. And he works with an amazing acting coach. And I started working with her probably about 5 or 6 years ago, on and off, not all the time. But it was much more of an analytical process for me, because my brain works over time. So I need to run it down into the ground. And that's sort of the process of the coaching thing for me.
You have to say her name because everyone was going to want to.
Her name is Penny Allen.
Yeah. And you followed October Sky with a wonderful trio of films, starting with Donnie Darko.
Yeah.
What was it about Richard Kelly's script that it's very offbeat? How did you know it would work on screen?
You never know anything's going to work. I mean, that's like, I mean, there was something about what the movie was saying. Like I thought about that, about why I initially do a movie. And it also comes again from something my mother taught me, which is that if you want to learn anything, go to the children's section of the library. That if it can't be described in a children's book, then it can't really be described somewhere. It needs to be as simple as possible. And so with Donnie Darko, I remember reading it, and I knew exactly what the movie was about. It was about adolescence. Like, it was about movement from adolescence into sort of trying to be free and be an adult. And as soon as I read it, I was like, I knew it. I knew what it was. And that was the theme for me. And my mother always says to me, like, what's the movie about? And it comes from being a writer, I think. But I say, oh, it's about this. No, like in one sentence. What is this movie about? So you can always go back to it. And in the times when it's 6 o'clock in the morning and you have one take, the sun is coming up, nothing you can do, you go back and you say, this is a movie about love. You know? And then, you know, you go and fight the character in the scene. You know? Like, that to me is, and that's with Donnie Darko, that was really, I just knew immediately. I was like, this is where I am in my life. It's some sort of metaphorical expression of that.
That film, by the way, has one of the best audio commentaries I've ever heard with you and Richard.
Oh, yeah.
Things I never noticed, like the boyfriend's car leaving at the beginning, and you guys are like laughing and going, there's his car. It's like, I think I'm still not sure I understand the movie completely, but I feel like I have a better grip on it after listening to that.
I feel like this is becoming a theme. Like I don't understand what your character was doing or what he is, but I really like it. I have no idea what that movie's about, but I really like it. Who are you? I think I like you. I like that.
Have you been surprised that that film has gone on to have such a passionate following? Just at Halloween, I still see 6-foot bunnies. I mean, people dressed as 6-foot bunnies. I don't see 6-foot bunnies.
Are you dropping acid?
Yeah, exactly. I have Donnie's
on
problems.
Halloween? I'm like,
They have Kitty Farmer days.
really?
Yes. Where like they
Actually, I just worked with the first AD on the last movie I finished. He did Donnie Darko as well. He made some sparkle motion reference to me the other night when we really had to push through. I'm just like, what is going on? But yeah, like that movie initially came out it came out and like nobody saw it and it was considered some failure. And I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that movie is. Man, and the cast in that movie too. Like, I mean, think about the cast. I mean, Seth Rogen has a one-scene part in that movie. You're just like, what? It's so cool, you know. He tries to slit my throat, but yeah, the movie is a question mark.
Yeah.
The movie is, and that's what it was meant to be and intended to be. Yeah.
But a crazy entertaining question mark.
Yeah, Richard Kelly wrote and Stephen Poster shot again. Great cinematographer. They like just like a head trip, you know. I like little things everywhere to be able to do in a scene and in a movie. And if you know that there are little secrets going on behind you, that's really fun too. And there were all those things all over that movie. Like, yeah, Richard would be like, oh, we're going to put that guy in the big guy in the tracksuit. We're going to put him behind you in the middle of the scene. And I'm like, that's so awesome. Again, I have to act less because there's something else going on. Somebody else is doing their job too. And, you know, they're doing it really well. And, you know, you're just working together.
You followed that with 2 films in which you played the object of affection of an older woman, The Good Girl, and one of my favorite films of all time, Lovely and Amazing.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah,
So
amazing film.
Lovely and amazing.
More amazing than lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But enough of both. Maybe it should be called amazing.
What were those experiences like? You both have amazing, sorry,
Well,
both
they're
have
lovely
incredible
too,
ensembles.
but yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And good, I forgot good.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I remember auditioning for Lovely and Amazing. I remember going in, reading with Catherine Keener, and being totally smitten by her. And that it got pushed, that movie got pushed, and I shot it in the middle of another movie, but everything really worked out. And that cast is so nuts too. Yeah, I mean, the thing I remember about Lovely and Amazing is that the dialogue was so good that I didn't even memorize it. It was like biting into a Krispy Kreme donut or something. It was just so easy, and you wanted more. You know what I mean? It was like there was no effort in eating it. It's just like, you just put it near your mouth and it dissolved. You know what I mean? It was like that. It was like that. That's Nicole Holofcener's dialogue, you know? I mean, I really remember not even memorizing it. It just came out of me like I was supposed to be saying it. And I think she casts that way. I think her writing is like that, and that the whole cast was like that. And one of my favorite scenes and one of the bravest scenes as an actor is Emily Mortimer's scene in that movie where she's naked and, you know, she's being described, her body is being described, the imperfections of it. It's one of the most hilarious, courageous scenes I've seen an actor do.
Yeah, and every actor should see it.
Yes, particularly for that scene.
Yeah.
For whatever perverse reason you want to watch.
Now, early in your career, and you had mentioned Moonlight Mile as well, it really seems like you were gravitating towards small indie projects with great ensembles. Was that intentional, or was it just sort of what you were being offered at the time? But did you have a career plan at that point?
No, and I still don't. No, I mean, I remember, yeah, like The Good Girl, for instance. I remember Miguel Arteta, the director, coming up to me at Sundance when Donnie Darko was premiering there, and he said, I have this script, and I was like, oh my God, like, you know, everybody's coming to everybody at Sundance saying they have a script and this and that. I was like, oh, cool, thanks, man. Like, who's that guy? Like, I didn't even understand him at the party. And then, sure enough, like, I mean, I wax philosophical, but like, fate brings so many things to you, and if you don't pay attention to it, you really miss out. Like the way I seem right now, having the being blessed enough to be able to choose roles in a certain way, fate, a script will come, you'll read it, and you'll say, oh, I don't know, and you have ideas, or this or that, I don't know about that part, or maybe I want that one, and then sometimes the universe will say something. Like, I was talking on set the other day, I had read a script, and I was talking on set with my extraordinary partner in Prisoners, I have to say, who's actually here today, who came off set and had 2 hours of sleep, Donald Moat, the makeup artist, who's incredible, who was another half of creating Detective Loki, and I met him on Prisoners, and he, so lovely, came and worked on this last movie, which was made for nothing, where we were all just desperately trying to pull it out, and worked his ass off. But I remember talking about the script, and Donald is such an inspiration in so many ways, and he'll say things because he's such an artist. Again, like, you need people like that around you who are really interpreting things from another direction that you would never think of, which is obviously an acting coach, or there are coaches everywhere, And he was like, oh, we were talking about some sort of spiritual thing, and I thought, oh my God, that's in the middle of that script. Whoa, why is Donald saying that? Whoa, is that a sign? Because he had no idea, But like, I believe so deeply in the unconscious. Like, that's, to me, the unconscious of a character, Like, that's where it's at, We don't have to say it, it's being said. And if you can hear that faint sound, if you can hear that noise underneath all the racket, then I think it will guide you in the right direction. I know, actually, it will guide you in the right direction. It won't always be, like, painless, but it will lead you in the right direction. And so Donald was saying that, and I was like, maybe I should do that movie. That wait a second, the universe is saying that part might, and then I started to get inspired. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then my mind started spinning, and I was like, oh my God, if I hadn't heard that sound, if I hadn't been working with that artist who is not an actor but knows actors so well, whatever, I could go on about that. But that's where it's at. That's where it's at.
This is the part where Donald confesses he read the script.
Nope,
right?
he didn't read the script.
Should we embarrass him? Where is he?
Totally
Where
embarrass him.
are you, Donald?
He's probably out.
Oh, he's hiding
gone.
out in the back.
He left as soon as I mentioned it.
Oh my gosh, after that beautiful testimony? Probably very tired, if you guys were up that late.
He had to wrap out the trailer too, so
wow.
A couple hours less sleep.
You did do a big budget action movie, The Day After Tomorrow, after that, which I imagine, like, the catering budget on that set must have been bigger than all your previous budgets combined.
Yes.
To make those movies.
Yes.
What attracted you to that role?
I think I'm really into big movies. Like, I like those movies. They were fun. Like, they're fun to watch. I love them. Independence Day, I love watching. Every time it's on TV, I can't not watch it. I could not watch it then. I still can't not watch it. And, Roland Emmerich was making another movie, and it was in a similar sort of vein in a way. And I just love that stuff. And Roland was amazing. He has an incredible taste in film. He is, like, so well schooled and educated. He's so lovely to be around, and it was like that's sort of easy. I think it also had a political aspect to it that made my mother proud, and also made me proud. That I think, strangely, also not proudly but sadly, is sort of coming true in a lot of ways. And it was sort of prophetic in a strange way that many blockbusters aren't. And so there were just a lot of aspects to it there.
It's a whole different style of acting, too, isn't it? I mean, acting with special effects.
Yeah.
Versus what you had been doing.
Yeah, but I was still like my annoying self of trying to get the character in the middle of an enormous wave that was more important than me. I remember actually an actor coming up to me and being like, dude, don't get your tuxedo ready for this, okay? Just run away from the wave. You know what I mean? Again, another lesson learned. So I was like, but why is he running away from the wave? And they're like, just run away from the fucking wave, man. I'm like, okay. The movie would be so much more interesting if there were bunny rabbits, like, surfing the wave.
6 foot tall ones.
Yeah, they're like, you've done that movie. Shut your mouth.
The following year was an amazing year for you. You starred opposite Anthony Hopkins and Gwyneth Paltrow in Proof. You starred in Sam Mendes's Jarhead. And of course you did Brokeback Mountain, which earned you your, I'm going to say, your first Oscar nomination. What attracted you to the role of Jack Twist?
Ang Lee.
Really? Was the director?
I mean, come on, it's like, they're like, Ang Lee's doing a movie. I'm like, where can I read, audition, try, what is it? They're like, it's a movie about two cowboys who fall in love. I'm like, oh, okay. As actors, you guys are the only ones who really understand that. But there were a lot of things that did. I mean, it was a beautiful screenplay. I mean, like, beautiful. I mean, out of control. To read that is like reading, first of all, the short story is amazing that it's based on, but then, my God, the sort of way it was opened up by Larry Murtry and Diana Ossana is amazing. So that was, part of it. And it was Ang Lee, and this beautiful story. And again, I go back to the same thing. If you can go back to what that movie's about, which is it's a love story, then you're good. If it knows what it's saying, which that movie clearly did, you're good. And, I auditioned for that movie. I got the part, and I was super psyched. Yeah.
Do you remember, I don't know how many times you auditioned, but do you remember the main scenes you auditioned with?
I didn't actually, this is interesting working with Ang Lee. I was told by Avi Kaufman, the casting director, to come in looking as much like a cowboy as I could. But I'm sort of one for subtlety and always have been, so I wasn't going to go in so I remember, I don't even know, I wore some weird, I'm strange. I wore some long coat, I was like, what are you, Unforgiven or something? I didn't even know what I was thinking. That was stupid. And I walked in and I remember Ang sort of sitting down and I remember sort of having some things prepared. And there were no sides I was given, there was nothing like that. And I sat down and Ang just was very far away from me, sitting in the shadows in some strange way. And we talked, it was quiet, it was incredibly awkward. It is always with Ang, until he comes and hugs you. This huge, full bear hug of love, which you don't know he's feeling, because I think that's why he stays so far away initially. And he talked to me for maybe what seemed like 45 seconds, and then he told me to thank you, and I left, and a week and a half later they offered me the part.
Wow. You never did any chemistry reads with anyone else in it?
No,
or?
He had it in his mind. Ang thought there were a number of combinations, and if it was one combination, it wasn't another combination. Heath and I were a combination of what he was thinking if another combination didn't work. And thankfully, the other combinations didn't work or didn't want to do it. And so Heath and I did it.
And was it always for the role of Jack? Was there ever a moment where you considered the other role?
That is not a question for me, really. I mean, I would have thankfully played both. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. That was never. I mean, I've been in movies where there've been where I think the movie is fantastic, the script is fantastic, and we're offered to someone, and people say the role is not good enough. I don't believe in that. If the movie's great, you want to be a part of it. It doesn't matter how big it is. It doesn't matter what it is. You can make anything out of anything. Just deliver the pizza. I mean, and so Ang Lee was making a movie. It's like what I said. I was like, I'm there. I mean, if he ever called me up again, I'd be there too.
So was there ever any hesitation? Only because I'm wondering, well, you said the script was beautiful.
Why would you think there'd be hesitation?
Actually, the tone. Everyone makes shortly before that, South Park did an episode about all independent films are about gay cowboys sitting around eating pudding, and then they actually made a film about gay cowboys.
Wait a second, that was after the fact, wasn't it?
No, it was before.
Really?
Yes, because I asked Ang Lee when he was making Brokeback Mountain, he said, there's no pudding in this movie.
Well,
It was very prescient.
But well, actually, if you ask Larry McMurtry, I think he was actually inspired by the South Park episode. Annie Proulx would probably say the same thing, as we all are. The Book of Mormon was the reason I did Detective Loki. So it all goes back to South Park. But there really wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, first of all, we had no idea it was going to be what it sort of became, you know? Which is way beyond any of us. It is a movie that is beyond the movie that is made, you know? It exists for so many people outside of that. It means so much. It was like one of those great books that was sort of found, like Indiana Jones was like, Brokeback Mountain, you know? That would be awesome to watch.
Part 5. I want to see that.
Harrison Ford, yeah, it's just like, what the? That. Anyway, no, but God, I want to make that movie. You know, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know. There was just, many times over the years people have asked, how do we do those scenes? It was like, yeah, it was strange and uncomfortable, but ultimately, we didn't really think much of it. Mm-hmm. Movies become so much more than what you've done in them. They humble you, I think. Like, it's when you start to believe that. Peter, my brother-in-law, said to me once, he said, what's so interesting about being a movie actor is you don't have the initial response of an audience. You make something, and then a year later or 6 months later, whatever it is, it comes out. And you're no longer that character. I mean, maybe if you're doing a television show and you're doing that, it comes out and you play that character, it's a different experience. But I think that there is still that experience. You are not that character to that audience. You know what I mean, to yourself, you are no longer that thing. And you can misinterpret the fact that you are that thing, that you are the performance you've given. And you're not the performance you've given. Even if someone says to you, it's incredible, you know, you're not that thing. You've been a part of something with an enormous group of people doing it all together. You're the product of that thing. And so that is where the disconnect happens. You know, you're working with Heath Ledger in a scene, who was an extraordinary actor, and you know, you have no idea what that scene's going to be. And Heath and I, many times we'd watch that movie and we'd be sort of looking at each other. We'd be in an audience because we had many screenings. We'd sit there and we'd hear people crying. And we'd look at each other and be like, wow, you know, wow. Like, what do we do? You know, what were we a part of? You know, this is now theirs. And that is that part, when we all get together as actors, it's that thing, it's that, I think that's why we need to be more together, because what we do is strangely so sensitive and weirdly misunderstood at times, and totally understood, you know, and looked at as something that's, but to be together and to say like, wasn't that crazy as a community is so important, because the result of what we do is not really ultimately what we do, you know?
You mentioned Ang Lee, obviously, and you've also gotten to work with directors like David Fincher and Zodiac and Sam Mendes, just the best directors in the world. What is it that you hope for most from a director when you show up to a set?
I don't think I have any consistent want, except if there's somebody who's just brilliant, which a number of those guys are, you just do what they say, because they see something, and you're in their movie. Sometimes they want you to do what they say. Sometimes they want to hear your ideas. Whatever they want from you, you know, don't fight it so hard, because in the end, you know, it's their movie. So it's their story. And they're going to shape it the way they want to shape it. You know, if something seems really stupid, or you're compromised, then fight for yourself, you know. But, or for the character, I think. But when you're working with people like that, there's no choices, you know. I mean, I just want somebody who really just believes that what I'm doing is, you just want to be believed in. That's all we want. And Even if you're being like pushed to a level that's hard for you to beat, or a feeling that's hard to deal with, or whatever it is, you just want to feel that belief. I mean, with Dan Gilroy, the director I just worked with, who wrote the script of this movie Nightcrawler that we just finished this morning, our belief in each other is so strong. Like, I would take risks for him that I wouldn't take for many people, because I know that he's safe. I mean, we went to some pretty intense places, and I did that for him and the beautiful script he wrote. And when there's something that is a script that is so good, you just want to you want to do everything, and that relationship with the director is just about belief. You have to respect the story they're telling, and they have to respect what you do. And that's all you want, That's all I want. I mean, and then, yeah.
Is directing something you would consider doing? You said earlier you don't really understand the business side of all this, but you're the son of a very good director. You've worked with a lot of great directors.
And I love actors so much. I really do. It's a strange thing to be an actor and to love watching another actor be incredible across from you. Like, there's nothing I want more in a scene than the other actor to be amazing. Like, we see things. There's another thing I learned from Mr. Hoffman. He'd come up to me and give me notes and things, and say things in a scene, or whatever. And I would always think, like, we see each other when we see we see the camera from a different angle. We see the story from a different angle. We're over here going, like, everybody's watching it from this way, but we're over here watching it this way. And I think that gives 360 degrees, and so, yeah, I love stories, and I love actors, and I would love to do that. It is daunting as an idea, because I know that it takes, you have to face yourself even more so. I've heard from people when you direct or do things like that, and your shortcomings come up, and God knows I have a lot of them. But I would love to do that. It would be amazing.
Speaking of Mr. Hoffman, I mean, he made his directorial film debut last year.
Yeah.
At the age of, I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
But waited for the right project.
30, he would say.
Exactly.
Yeah, at 30. Yeah.
Looking over your resume, we've talked a lot about your very serious roles, but you're one of the best Saturday Night Live hosts ever. Probably had the best monologue of all time.
That I might pat myself on the back for that.
Who pitched that idea, by the way, of you singing Dreamgirls?
That's another idea of, like, letting things get a little too out of control. At the time, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, you should sing in it because you sing, and you should sing, sing something." And I was like, "Okay, what can I sing? Whatever." And Dreamgirls was like all this. Jennifer Lawrence, Jennifer Hudson was at the time being nominated for her performance in that, and there was all this stuff, and it was like that time, and I just thought. We just said, well, what if we sing that song? And I was like, okay. And then, like, we tried it out, and then I thought, oh wow, I was singing it in her key, which was kind of. And then Lorne Michaels came up and he's like, you have to do this in drag. And I was like, totally, yeah, of course. And it's just like one of those moments where you look back on it and you're just like, maybe I shouldn't have done it like that. Then you're like, yeah, I should have done it like that. Yeah, I mean, that's how it came about. It's as it is. The monologue is your opportunity, I think, to kind of like, it's your writing in a way, more so than the other sketches on SNL, because SNL, all the writers have written all these amazing, and all the people who are working on the show have written skits and you are going through them, and everyone's trying to get theirs on, and that's the one moment where you kind of get to do something crazy yourself, and we just went crazy. Like, I don't even know what to say. I was just in a weird mood. It was a week of working with funny people, and you think you're funny, and all of a sudden you're wearing a dress and a wig, and you're singing Jennifer Hudson's song that she later wins an Academy Award for, and you're just sitting there with clips of you in a dress. You know what I mean? It's just what happens.
Are you interested in
that
doing?
is actually the perfect example of what being an actor is.
Would you be interested in doing a comedy?
Yeah. Man, I'll take it where I can get it. You know what I mean? I do. I feel that way. It's, you know, I think that if you can do, like, commit to anything, you know, wholly, you can sort of walk through genres. I'm interested in genres, even all different kinds of, all different kinds.
I do want to take some questions from the audience, and I apologize in advance if I mispronounce anyone's name.
Okay.
Prince Little Wolf, is that correct? Ah, I got it, okay.
Hey,
You've had a
it's an
great batting
amazing
average.
name.
You've had a great batting average for quality films. Do you have good advisors who help you choose your films, or is there, well, it's a different question, but is there something that you turned down that you now regret?
Oh, yeah. Well, no, I don't have any regrets about that stuff, about things you turned down or things you wanted and didn't get, or just they're just not meant for me, you know, they're not my roles, you know, so it's fate. But batting average is, you know, basically an F, you know, if you have a good one, you know. So, I mean, you don't have to hit that many balls, you know, to have a good batting average. So I like that you used that analogy. I do have a really amazing team of advisors, I would say, like guides in a way. And my agents are great. But I also think it just has to do, the choice had to do early on. I came out of the sort of gate, luckily, with that movie October Sky. Like, that I'm very proud of that movie. And that sort of set the bar in a way. So, and I didn't know at the time the incredible actors I was working. I didn't really know Chris Cooper. I knew Laura Dern, but you know, I just didn't know the quality necessarily. I was just like, oh my God, I'm making a movie like this is so incredible. As time went on, I think it's just I have to credit my education and having read great books at Columbia and gone through that program and reading the great classic books and the classics and knowing a good story. You know, knowing how to find a good story. Having a high school teacher who made us read all the great plays, really, and also act scenes from many of them. So you know what sounds right, what feels right, when the rhythm's right. You know those things. I don't know, man. It's a mystery to me. But I think also it's the other elements besides script too. You know, one of the storyteller, again, the cinematographer and the people working on the movie, being able to judge it from that point and saying like, well, this guy's shooting the movie, so what I'm doing will be captured. You know, or you know, I mean, there's so many questions, but a lot of it's just knowing some of the stories and not being afraid. You know, not being afraid of the story. Or, you know, I have if anything, I have no answer for that question, as you can tell. I really don't. I mean, also I watched my parents. You know, in this business, I was born into it. You know. And I've watched them, you know, through their careers, where they are, and ultimately what matters. And what I see, my parents are places in their lives and their careers where their lives are more important, and that is the priority. And I think that the good choices I've made in my career have come when I've made choices that have influenced my life. And I've said, this is gonna help it.
We actually had a question about your education from Brooke to Jerks. I got that somewhat right. Wants to know about your education at Harvard Westlake and how that affected your personal development, as many people often don't think education is important today.
If I could read that, I would probably tell you the same thing. God. My education, my high school education at essentially a prep school, you know, the rigors, the intensity, the focus, the sort of obsessive quality of being able to just keep your head above water in a highly competitive academic environment is similar to the business that we're in, you know. I mean, that focus that I learned in high school, the time that I didn't want to work and I had to, you know, I didn't want to put that extra hour in to learn that piece of information or whatever it was, and then seeing it pay off. I mean, it's happened time and time again on this last movie. We had 28 days, for instance, to shoot this movie. I had massive monologues throughout the whole movie. I mean, it's like pages and pages of dialogue where my character speaks most of the time. And I memorized it like a play so that I could be agile enough that I knew that on the day we'd be flipping around and we'd lose a location, and I was producing the movie as well, so we'd lose something, we have to go over here, and I would be ready. No one would ever be able to say that I wasn't prepared, you know? And I think that came from my education somewhere like at Harvard Westlake, you know, that there was a real rigor to preparation, to learning something inside out, giving it that extra hour that you don't want to give it, you know. And it's been a huge influence. I learned how to write, which really helps with thank you notes, you know. No, and it really does.
It's a lost art.
Look, I just saw Captain Phillips, right? And I just saw Tom Hanks in Captain Phillips. And I was so moved by his work. And I've been sitting for the past 3 days thinking about the letter that I want to write him to tell him how extraordinary I thought his work was. And I know that if I didn't have the education that I had, I wouldn't be able to express the words to the person that I saw and their work that I saw in the way that I wanted to. And that, I mean, I could give you a million examples of how my high school education, my college education has influenced me in my career. But that's just what I was thinking about now, was the way I want to tell him how he moved me, you know. It's good to know how to do that.
We have a question from Zachary Goodspeed. Everyone has a better name than me.
I know, my God, you guys have amazing names.
Is it just me? Okay.
They're like, everybody who's in this audience has to have at least as many like letters in their last name as Jake Gyllenhaal does in order to be here.
You took all the vowels.
We know the plight of that. I understand.
So
doesn't fit on a title.
You're right there,
Hey,
okay.
what's up, man?
Knowing that every actor... Is that your real name?
Yeah, it's my real name.
That's awesome. Knowing that every actor is worried about their next job, in your experience, what do you find is the secret to longevity? And he thanks you in advance. It's very polite.
Thanks, man, for your question. Longevity. I'm I'm 32. I don't know.
Making you feel like an old man again?
Yeah. No. I feel like an old man. Like, I always have, since I was like a little kid, I think. I think the secret to longevity is trying to be good to others in your work. I think that's the secret. And it's really hard when you're in something, like you're playing a character or something, and it's an intense moment, and you know, you are in the scene, and the balance between those things when you're on set and when you're doing that you have to respect the character and the situation they're in. And you have to focus in those moments and not get distracted by the things that are going on set. Because I will many times come on set in a moment that I'm in and know that things are going to come at me. You know, like they're going to come at me and they're going to affect my animal. Like, that's how I always think about it that way. Like, yeah, they are though, man. I mean, no, they are. Like, I mean, that's how I think about it. I was saying about Michael Pena. Like, Michael Pena said to me when we were shooting End of Watch, he's like, an actor's instinct is like a lion in the jungle. He's like, you have to coax it towards you, and everyone has to be quiet. Because if one move is made or a sound is made, it'll scurry away. And so often on a set, no one's paying attention to that, and nor should they. We all should be doing our jobs as well as we can. And to move an enormous light makes a lot of noise. And to set something up and put a microphone on you is someone else's job, and they have to futz with you. And you wear every department on you as an actor. That's what I realized. You can misinterpret the fact that like it's all about you because you wear every department. You wear the costume department, you wear the sound department, you wear the props department, you have it all on you, you know? And I just think that within that space where you have to be true to the instinct that you have, you also have to learn how to express. Like, again, I said before I started this movie I just did, I said, look guys, I may not come in every day ready to smile and say hello. You know, I am in a different mindset. I'm putting myself there. But I want to prep you for that. I want you to know that. And I don't think being good to people is always just like being nice, and that's something I learned from Hugh Jackman. But I think that it's about being honest about what you're doing and where you are, you know? And that is longevity. You know, longevity is, look, we're all complicated human beings. We all have all the things we're struggling with. Well, I'll speak for myself. I have a lot of things I struggle with, and a lot of things that I'm grappling with, and a lot of things I love about myself, and other things that I'm working on, other things I don't. And if you can be honest about those things in your performance and with the people you're working with, and you feel safe in that space, then you will work, you know, and people will understand. And that's just about being honest and being good. Because I saw Hugh fight for what he needed, for that space, for the story he believed in. He's not always like Mr. like, hey, you know. That's why I love him. Because he's not somebody who comes in and is like, I don't know, he's not faking it. He is a positive guy. That is possible, to be a positive person. Like, to be a nice person and not be fake. But you also have to get tough sometimes too. In service of your character, in service of the story, in service of the time that you have, in service of the time you don't have. You know, it's all important. And that is where the longevity lies, I think. I think. Yeah, man.
Oh.
Yeah, dude, you always have awesome questions. Yeah. And I wasn't making fun of your name at all.
No, it's an awesome name.
My name means hard rock.
Does it really?
I think. It also might. Wait, I just realized I could make it mean anything right now. Actually, it means.
Noble spirit.
Yeah, noble spirit. Oh my God. Yeah. Totally.
Well, I didn't do this intentionally, but this name is Lauren Michaels. It's over there. Okay, yeah.
Okay, what's up?
I swear I didn't just pick the best names. Wants to know, you might have addressed this earlier, but did Maggie pull you into the business, or did you pull her?
We were both in it. I mean, our parents were doing it. The business itself, I started working professionally before my sister did. But in terms of acting, I think she really did pull me in. In my mind, always, she's like ahead, but she's always ahead in her ideas, in her approach, in her age. No, she is. She is that. She's my big sister, so that's inevitable. So yes, I mean, if that answers, I think that answers your question somewhere. But I tried to get ahead before, but she's always like, good try. You know?
Would you guys work together again? I mean, I know you have in the past, but.
Yeah. We were thinking about maybe doing. I think we'd probably work on stage.
That, for some reason, I had that inclination.
Yeah. I think we'd love to do that. I mean, my sister and my brother-in-law work together on stage a lot, and it's really an amazing place to explore. I think, particularly those dynamics, just the process. And so I think we might do something like that, but nothing like planned really yet. I think for us, it's just. We're always all over the place. My sister's in Morocco now. My nieces are in Morocco. She's working, and my brother-in-law's in Montreal, and I'm here. And, when we get together, it's like we just want to be together, and the work we've done, and things are, we're a family, so.
So what's up next? You just wrapped Nightcrawler. Which sounds amazing. And is this your first time producing?
Yes. Well, I executive produced End of Watch, but yes, as a producer, yes, my first without the executive.
And have you started Everest or wrapped Everest?
I start that in January, February.
What can you tell us about that one?
It's about Everest. No, it's about it's based loosely on the Into Thin Air John Krakauer novel and the story of the guys who went up there. It's an amazing cast. We can put together Josh Brolin and John Hawkes and Jason Clarke and Emily Watson, and it's a really cool cast of actors, which I'm really excited about. And we're gonna go up on a mountain. We're gonna try and act in the snow. It's the best thing I can. It's the best thing I can do. And I don't have a beard in it, which is I'm bumming about. Everyone else has a beard.
How can you? That's interesting.
I don't know, man. That's my key to character. No one asked me that, but that's really my key to character.
It's funny. I was actually trying to work
Facial
in a
hair.
question about your beard because you did that great cameo in that Saturday Night Live video.
Oh yeah, my beard.
Yeah.
Well, facial hair is the key to any performance, really. Or no facial hair, really. There's really only two choices, and that's
Well, I can't wait to see what you do next. Your career's been so exciting till now and just seems to be getting even more and more interesting. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.